Hey everyone, this is Valentina Flores, CEO of Red Sentry, and this is the Ctrl-Alt-Secure podcast where we talk all things cybersecurity. Excited to have two guests here today, Nathan and David from Ubiquity. And the reason I've invited them here is not only to talk about some of the cool things they're doing in the blockchain space, but also how, as startup leaders, with everything they have going on, especially in a space like blockchain that's constantly changing, how they're prioritizing cybersecurity. So, welcome, guys. I'd love to start with you sharing your backgrounds and your current roles at Ubiquity.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Valentina, for having us. A real pleasure and an honor. My name is Nathan Wosnack. I'm the founder and CEO of Ubiquity. My background, I've been an entrepreneur for 22 years. I started in the information security, computer and telecom security world way back in '01. It was just before 9/11 happened, and it was quite an interesting journey for me as a young entrepreneur. I was just 19 years old, barely 19, almost 20 years old back then, and ran that for a few years, got quite a lot of experience. And then after that, I basically got into telecommunication systems, building VoIP companies from scratch. My background's in telecom engineering. And then basically, like many people have told these interesting stories, I got into Bitcoin. I got into Bitcoin actually in November of '09 because one of my colleagues had told me to try it out. And the rest is history. I basically hung on to some Bitcoin, gave a lot away early on, maybe a little bit too much, but I always had a fascination with the technology behind Bitcoin. I always wanted to learn more, and I always wanted to do quite a lot with the non-financial uses of blockchain technology back in around 2014. And so 2015 started Ubiquity in September. Actually, we just turned 8 years old last week, which was pretty cool, on the 15th. And the rest is history, and have obviously did my best to bring the right team together. And that's why I'm really excited to have David Simpson, who's our Chief Growth Officer, on the call as well. And we're just excited for next steps ahead as a company. So really appreciate the time.
Great.
So I'm David Simpson, Chief Growth Officer, and I joined Ubiquity about a year ago. I got introduced to Ubiquity through crypto myself. I got involved back in 2018, and through some of the different chains I researched, and I did end up buying some crypto as well. I discovered Ubiquity, and I love their use case. My background is 14 years in Fortune Financial 500 companies, as well as some real estate and logistics. And so when I discovered that Ubiquity was looking to do title on real estate, that resonated with me. I saw the use case, knew I had to invest. My experience is building sales teams and working on pilots and projects, so kind of fit for me in terms of joining Ubiquity to help grow the business in the future. So last year, Nathan asked me to come on board, and I said I'd build him a sales team ready to go.
Very cool. So, to give some context, Red Sentry's been doing vulnerability management for Ubiquity for I think about a year and a half now, right, Nathan?
Yeah.
Even since then, your company has just evolved so much. You guys are launching products left and right, which is so cool to see. So, just tell us like a little bit about Ubiquity, what you guys are doing, and why cybersecurity is important for you guys and your industry in particular.
Absolutely, great question. Yes, we're very very happy customers. So it's worth mentioning. Very very happy customers of Red Century. Your company has done quite a lot for us with not just helping to serve our security needs, but also helping us with partnerships with other companies and things like that. So that's a great question. I'm asked this question probably about 5 times a week, which I like. It's a great question because it always keeps me creative, and I'm always trying to look at new ways of kind of explaining without getting too much in the weeds. So David, if I say something where I'm like stuck, you got to bail me out, man. I think we talked about this before the call started, Valentina, that we're in a scaling position of a company over 8 years, and I'll give you the long-winded answer, but hopefully not too long-winded. We started off doing integration consulting like most companies do while we were looking for the right use cases. We did everything from title abstracting software, building a peer-to-peer marketplace, to just simple recording a hash of data onto the blockchain and then recording it onto a simple platform. We did that for aviation. We did that for multiple title companies. We did it for one of the largest aviation title companies in the US. And so right now we have two services and a product, I guess I could say. Our flagship product is called NF Title. It was formerly known as non-fungible title. It was just too long-winded, too much to say. So it's an NF Title. It was shortened. Shoutouts to our COO, Ignacio Landez-Duin, for recommending it. NF Title is a cool product. It allows enterprises, medium-sized to enterprise companies, including individuals, I suppose, but mostly enterprise companies, medium title, as well as other verticals in aviation and car title companies, to record pertinent information like titles, deeds, warranties, all sorts of kind of documents that would be important for their industry. Obviously, there's no deeds for a car, but in this case, we mostly work with title companies for US real estate. And they want to have a chain of custody that's set up, and they want to have some ability. So, for instance, if a homeowner does an upgrade to an air conditioner, or they do some other kind of maintenance of something in the home that will stay there, that'll be stationary, that'll stay there and not move with them when they sell the home. Imagine having that clean record of all of that data using a secure system, using Web3 technology, MetaMask, blockchain technology, and the power of NFT technology to store it in a secure manner and record it in a secure manner through the blockchain with an immutable ledger. And also have it stored using peer-to-peer technology. There's a technology called IPFS, and using top-of-the-line security, top-of-the-line DRM encryption, and having that available for customers. Well, as luck would have it, we created this product in March, and we've already onboarded quite a lot of companies. And in fact, we're going to be working with a very large enterprise insurance underwriter, several of them soon, and major title companies, etc. The other product we have, which is a lot more simple, for anyone who's listening is in the real estate space, they're probably aware of like Zillow and other MLS systems, multi-listing services. We're creating one just for people to be able to list and buy homes using cryptocurrency. And so we have that, and it's actually powered by our payment gateway that we have. We're a reseller for a couple different companies. And with that, it's called Ubiquity Pay, which powers everything, like in terms of how we're billing things. And so we allow 120 plus cryptocurrencies, stablecoins, etc. And we also have a merchant system. This is actually kind of cool because I really haven't even really mentioned this too publicly, besides a few X, formerly known as Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. posts, where we allow real estate property companies and their landlords to bill renters through our platform, and they can pay with cryptocurrency.
Very interesting.
Yeah, we're working with a couple different companies, and we're working with a gentleman in the East Coast in Rhode Island who's doing that for some of his clients, and also a property company in New Hampshire. Yeah. So live free or die. They love their crypto in New Hampshire. So that's basically our three products. And then, of course, we do the occasional consulting, API development stuff. So, yeah, that's what we do.
Very cool. Yeah. And so how does cybersecurity kind of play into blockchain? Like, obviously, security is huge there. It's got a lot of unique use cases, but how does cybersecurity kind of play in?
Absolutely. Great question. Just from a standard Web2 network security perspective, it's always important that everyone has their system audited and monitored. So for us, we have Red Sentry monitoring us 24/7, all of our servers, all of our websites, making sure everything is good. So I think having that is important. Many companies in the Web3 world have to deal with a lot of cyber attacks. I guess we got a lot of people who are probably like hackers or other individuals who are looking, who think either we have a bunch of crypto on a server, or there's a lot of people who are just sort of maximalists in whatever crypto, name the name, and they're not happy with us, and we get DDoS attacks. Every 6 hours, we block them, they randomize it, so we have Cloudflare set up and other anti-DDoS type of systems in place. And yeah, so that's important for us, obviously running rootkit detection software on all of our servers, because attack vectors are pretty huge. And I think blockchain companies are prime targets, just like banks and other companies too. I'm sure your company gets attacked all the time because you're like the anti-security people, right? Hackers, the black hats. So
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure from your side, even doing the non-financial stuff, I mean, deeds and all the things you mentioned all have extremely sensitive information and so much data in it that that's obviously a prime target, even aside from the Web3 side of it.
Yeah, that's definitely a perception for sure. It's very important to note this because for us, security is number one. Really, it truly is. Ask David. He'd be like, oh yeah, Nathan's like security paranoid. But that's for a good reason. We are processing only public records for now, stuff that could be looked up, or maybe semi-private stuff, but it's always encrypted. Before we ever process anything that's truly, truly private, we're building some tools. Like we have a software application, an add-on to NF Title called NFT Vault, which it encrypts, archives, and then it also allows people to be able to view the document, but then being able to do it through a Web3 type of wallet, like MetaMask, for instance, using cryptography in order to be able to view it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So I guess blockchain right now, you're talking back in like 2014, you couldn't have a conversation without Bitcoin or something coming up in it.
Yeah.
And you don't really hear talked about as much anymore, but it's obviously still like going on and evolving crazy. So
Of course.
what's kind of going on in blockchain right now? What are the changes happening? Where do you see it going in the next few years?
Sure. Well, hey, David, not to put you on the spot, but we want to answer that first, and I'll follow you.
Yeah, I'll throw my 2 cents in on that. So when looking at the application of blockchain for businesses to adopt it. A lot of people think about blockchain, they think about the encryption, and they say, oh, wow, this stuff's encrypted, it's used by criminals, et cetera, et cetera. The truth is, if you look at Bitcoin, the transparency is huge. You can go out, look somebody's wallet up on the internet and find all the transactions in and out of that wallet, right? And when working with an enterprise, no enterprise is going to say, hey, we want all of our transactions to be in the public eye, right? Because when I work for a bank, they protect two things. They protect your money and your privacy, right? Your identity. And institutions are not going to compromise that just to have the safety and security of a blockchain, which is very hard to hack, because then they're compromising their clients' data. So there has to be that happy medium where blockchain exists and it provides a service to these businesses, but it also provides the type of encryption that businesses are going to need to protect the privacy of their clients. And so that's what's evolving too. And I think a lot of the original, like Nathan was saying, the Bitcoin maximalists will say, we want everything to be transparent, but do you really want people to see that you just bought this house and that you sent money from this account and there's this much money left in that account, right? It is not something that people are willing to adopt on a normal stage. It's just something that people in the crypto just know and understand. But very few people are really willing to give up that much information of their own life and throw it out there on the internet. So the evolution is truly going to be where the blockchain exists with specific encryption for businesses so they can still provide that privacy for their clients, hence why security is so important.
Yeah, and so that's kind of being developed now, or it's being talked about, or what's its
I would
status?
say it's being developed for sure. I'll give a special shout out to one of our infrastructure partners, well, the parent company, Metallicus. You can tell the founder is a big fan of Metallica. I've known Marshall Hayner. So Marshall Hayner is the founder, an absolute genius, early Bitcoin adopter. I've known him in the Bitcoin space for 10 years. Like I mentioned, they're definitely doing that. Privacy is very important. But at the same time, they also understand the need for KYC, know your customer rules, anti-money laundering, ensuring that politically exposed persons aren't on the platform. And I think that's really important. That could be very important for enterprises and their clients. So they're already doing that. They're definitely leading the charge in that front. I mean, privacy is important. I mean, for us, I don't know if this is really the most interesting segue, but we white label a lot of our products too. So we have customers who we install a server, we have a cloud instance, they can bring their own domain or we register a domain for them. We white label it and there's no trace that it's even addressed to us. And I say this because we have some companies that want to implement this for an insurance company in Europe. And so it would be important for them to kind of have that. And that's sort of a layer of privacy. No one knows that they're reselling it and it looks sort of centric to them. For us, we encrypt all data where needed. We add multiple layers of security, HT access. I think that's a very good security measure to have in place. Really Linux-based and secure passwords and things like that. Obviously, using anything that's an IPFS, we encrypt it before we send it off. We ensure that things are private and archived and encrypted, like I mentioned with NFT Vault. So yeah, it's important to us. It's important. We do have, I guess, situations where we do manage a wallet for clients, not from and I want to mention it's not for investment purposes. It's just to do billing. The regulators who might be listening, and we encrypt all of that data and ensure that it's managed properly.
Very cool. Yeah, and so you guys have done your SOC 2 audit and you've been
Alright.
approved through that and stuff.
Yep.
And SOC 2 comes with thousands of controls, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when we get companies coming for pen testing and they're going through SOC 2 and things like that, it's a lot of just like checking the box for these controls. So I'd love your opinion on how you think other leaders and everyone in this space can kind of evolve from just like checking that box to, like you said, like you just being a cybersecurity nut, how we kind of evolve into prioritizing that.
Big time, absolutely. And I mean, actually, it's funny, David. We had a conversation the other day. We have a client and we have the parent company, and won't name who it is, but a very large company in the real estate space. And David was like, no, even encrypted data going on IPFS is not going to fly. And so I was like, okay, well, how can we mitigate this issue? And I was like, well, a toggle button would help. Toggle buttons that can just, okay, is this sensitive? Okay, red button. Okay, that automatically gets archived to NFT Vault. That automatically will not allow, like, even if they want to upload it to IPFS, it will be disabled. Stuff like that. Even small things like that, I think, are good because we want to ensure that we are adhering to not just security best practices, but best practices of the ALTA, which is the American Land Title Association. We do that because we want to serve the needs of our clients and the real estate space. We have a lot of respect for ALTA and National Association of Realtors and folks like that. Very powerful folks on K Street, lobbyist types, that they have a lot of power to ensure they can make or break companies. I'm not saying that NAR is going to do that, but I'm just saying if you play with them and you're willing to play along, and you're willing to just be cooperative, they'll ensure that you're successful as well. So we want to make sure that we are ensuring our clients are happy. Real estate's a very conservative type of industry, and so we definitely need to make sure that we're adhering to their needs and policies.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, all those frameworks, whether it's Alta or SOC or
Yeah.
ISO or PCI, like those controls are there for a reason. And that's what we try to tell people. If you're starting off with just checking the box, that's fine. That can be kind of the start of your cybersecurity journey or whatever journey that is.
Yeah.
But these controls are here because companies don't do it without that. So
It's true.
they're there for a reason. And just talking about the SOC 2 as we're going through our audit, there's so many ways that you could cheat a SOC 2 audit, and we see it all the time. And we try to just explain to people just to take it seriously and to really value those controls in those different agencies.
100%. And I'll just add to this, like, we are proud customers of SecureFrame. That would not be possible without your employee, Jenny. Jenny's just been a great contact person and really forward thinking, and you as well, Valentina. And a shout out to them. I read the news that your companies are officially partnered publicly. So that was quite neat to see.
Yeah, so SecureFrame does all kinds of audits, and Mark from SecureFrame was actually on the podcast last time, and
I saw that.
we've been working with them kind of on and off for a while, but it's become a lot more formalized lately, and we're actually doing our SOC 2 audit through them too, so we're excited for that. And yeah, they're a great company, and we always try to work with people with just great teams and customer service, because small to medium businesses are just so underserved in so many different areas, and that customer service piece is really undervalued by a lot of enterprises.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. I won't name companies, but I'll say that we've done our research. We certainly had explored different companies, and we found that SecureFrame was really the best fit for us. No disrespect to any of the other companies. I think the best fit for us is an organization that's going to serve the needs of us as a scaling startup company, soon to be hopefully a medium-sized company, and we'll see where we go from there. But we have our SOC 2 Type 1 that's pending. We're hoping for completion date for end of the fiscal year, December 31st. That's our goal. And again, shout outs to Jesse. If it wasn't for that guy, we wouldn't be such a great sales rep. And then Christy, who's acting as our agent representative, also helping us too. And so, yeah, great company, and it's cool. It's so cool to know that we're customers of both yours and that you're working together. So it's like a nice ecosystem.
So I guess as we're kind of talking about SOC 2 in general and just as startup leaders, there's just so much on your plate all the time. I know you guys just had a big product launch. You're doing all these compliance, everything going on at the same time. So what's your advice for how leaders can kind of balance everything going on and still put emphasis on security? Because what we see often is security is kind of the first thing that goes to the back burner because it's looked at as like a nice to have, like it's a proactive thing, especially if you're talking about pen testing or vulnerability management. It's shifted to the back burner so often. So do you have any advice for leaders who are just kind of doing that juggling act right now?
Yeah, I would. I mean, as a person who has attended Black Hat security conferences and DEF CON, and hearing the stories and knowing of some of the stuff that's out there, taking security is number one. They say trust is the number one thing in relationships, right? Trust is security. Well, take it like that. If you don't have a foundation of security in your company, you are never going to get anything else done. Eventually, you could lose it all, and it's really going to be down to your reputation. Reputation management is so huge. Being able to manage that, you have one issue, it's always going to be a mark on you forever. But then again, I mean, people are forgiving, but as long as you respond to those incidents in a mature manner and responsible and professional manner, you can do well. But you hear all the horror stories. Look at Microsoft. And in fact, you take a look at, it took Microsoft, like, I'll just use this example without going off too much. Microsoft in the 1990s did not take security too seriously. They took usability and they wanted all sorts of stuff pushed through, all sorts of protocols that were pushed through, and they got owned. In fact, a big shout out to an organization that's no longer around, but they were called Rhino 9 Security Team. These gentlemen found security vulnerabilities in Microsoft Outlook in 1999, and I remember it was 0 day. And back then, Microsoft had like a 90% market share in 99. And they were able to own, I mean, they could have taken over most of the machines around the world with a simple, it was basically the vulnerability was like an email, and you open the email with an image in it. It's a JavaScript vulnerability. So if like the biggest organizations in the world can be taken down, you can be taken down, and you will. Like I said, we're always being attacked, and it's always important to take security first, because if you don't, everything else becomes moot and pointless, and you could lose everything. You get sued. You will get sued. You will go out of business, and your reputation will be ruined. And good luck entering the space or anything else in the okay, I'm being dramatic here, but good luck going into the same industry if you have that reputation. It's going to be a hard battle. That's all I'm saying.
Whenever we're looking at any new product or taking a new direction, Nathan is always, and for me, I'm not very good with security, and that's why I don't really handle any of that. But it's funny to me because I think, oh, we should do this, and we can go here, or what if this? And then Nathan always approaches it with, here's the security aspect, and here's how we're going to do it, and here's how we're going to make sure that this is going to work properly. And I've never been taught to think that way, so it's very different for me to even hear about it or see it, especially because Nathan always takes security first, and it's just, until I met Nathan, I've never even thought that way. And so it never really occurred to me, right? And I see I'm part of the hack again, and then I get the free credit repair and all this stuff for a year, and it's constant, right? And it never really occurs to me because I'm not that type of person that thinks about security, but thankfully Nathan, he always does that first, so.
Thank you. I will say I'm that guy who's emailing you all at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, okay, they're a web hosting company that, for instance, and I'll say this again, all respect to Namecheap, no disrespect to Namecheap. We're migrating over to Google Cloud soon, but there was a security incident on part of their system. Thankfully, it didn't affect any customers, but they got some lists, and they were sending out spear phishing attack emails with MetaMask. And I mean, oh my God, we were definitely a prime target because we publicly stated that we had MetaMask as a Web3 wallet for connecting crypto to people's infrastructure. And I'm like, don't click anything. I'm like, in fact, if you get an email and I ask you anything, don't call me. And then we have a code word, and we have several code words that are on rotation, and our passwords are getting rotated every X days. I won't disclose what it is, but I'm that paranoid android. I am that guy.
Yeah.
I'm that,
I will never text you and ask you for gift cards, I promise.
Yeah, I will never say, hey, can you throw me some crypto or whatever.
Yeah. The reputation that you mentioned is so important because I feel like we so often just focus on the financial amount, which is enough in its own. Ransomware is hitting startups like crazy now. And even really small companies are getting hit with ransomware for $4 million. But the reputation, the forgivability, the more things you're doing to protect it. If you're doing all the right things and you still get hacked, that forgivability is obviously a lot easier.
Yes.
But if you're not really prioritizing it all, that's where your clients are going to be like, all right, well, what were you doing this whole time? So
exactly.
I think that's a big part of it. And then David was talking about looking at different like vendors and just everything from a security first perspective. Last year, I think 60% of hacks came from supply chain. So, vendors are just one of your biggest vulnerabilities right now. So making sure that I tell everyone like a free thing you can do for your cybersecurity right now is just make sure everyone you work with is doing cybersecurity. And that takes a big chunk of the risk out.
It does, absolutely. So I guess to answer your question, kind of going back, where you're like, how do you scale that or how do you prioritize? For us, we're just on the right mailing lists. Google keywords for certain phrases are very important. I'm on the one for title fraud and all sorts of vulnerability stuff. I'm on all the right mailing lists. It doesn't need to be one where it's in your vision every day, because that could be daunting and annoying and not really right. But create another email address, have it sitting there that you view every few days. Have distribution lists where certain things are sent off to staff and ensure your staff knows of the latest things, because there are going to be people who aren't necessarily security conscious, and we all have strengths and weaknesses, right? So we all need to help each other. And I always love that one quote. Forget his first name, but his last name was Schneider. He invented an encryption algorithm called Two-Fish. Dan Schneider? No, that's an actor or producer, but some other name like Schneider. He invented Two-Fish encryption and stuff, and he said security is not a product, it's a process. And I've never forgotten that, because there's never like a one-size-fits-all security tool. I wish they were. In fact, well, you guys are making it very close. You're kind of like almost helping us get there, but definitely there's a lot of things you got to do to ensure that you mitigate security risks. What do they say? There's another quote. It's like, yeah, everything can be hacked. It's like, except for a computer, 100 feet down. I'm totally butchering this quote, but like 100 feet down, concrete walls, military guards, and even then I wouldn't trust it.
The quote I always love saying it stuff is, especially for smaller companies, you don't have to outrun the bear, you just have to outrun the person next to you. And, every little step you take towards security just makes you less appealing to that hacker, and they might move on to the next guy.
Jenny said it best. Hopefully she listens. Make sure she listens. I'll make sure she listens to it. Don't worry, you don't have to do that. You're busy as a CEO. I'll make sure she listens. She was on a podcast with a gentleman from Secure Frame, and they had a great, like, just really good rapport with each other. And Jenny's like, hackers are lazy. And I laughed. I was like drinking coffee. I almost spit it on my nose. I was like, yeah, hackers are lazy. Hackers will go for the low-hanging fruit. It's easier for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys. This was really cool just to talk through. And I mean, even just learning more about your industry was really cool. So any final thoughts or anything before we end?
Yeah, I'll just say to learn more about our company, ubiquity.io, just know that for anyone who is obviously who you listen to the podcast who's security conscious, I am definitely that. I'm sure our company is as well. And we're looking forward to just building tools that are security enabled. In fact, this podcast inspired me to want to build more for security. And it's important to serve your customers' needs and scale and build tools, but make sure security is a foundation and a number one priority.
Sorry, David. We've inspired Nathan even more, David. Sorry.
I just want to say thanks. I appreciate you having us on. And as we build out more in the future and add more verticals, we're always going to have our clients' best interests in mind. It's the only way we're going to be able to be successful.
Always.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. If all leaders took these priorities like you guys did, we'd have a lot less hacks out there. So appreciate it. Appreciate the advice. Thanks. We'll be in touch soon.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.